And so it's my pleasure to introduce Kes Sampanthar.
Thank you. Let's start with a question. Why? That's the question which drives a lot of our work. Why GSummit? Why are you here? We just heard from Andrea. Amazing talk about motivation. Motivating people to change their behavior to drive business results is something which we're passionate about. How many of you thought motivating people to change their behavior would be easy? How many of you are parents? I'm a parent of twins. I wish motivating people to change their behavior was easy. Something I spent a lot of time thinking about. And when it comes to games and game designers, the reason GSummit and gamification is because game designers for years have been thinking about how to motivate people to change behavior. Might not be the same behavior you're trying to do as a business, but it is about changing behavior. And it's about motivation and understanding motivational design. I want to tell you today about Verizon. Verizon was sat here where you are a couple of years ago. They heard me talk, and it started a project about changing behavior for over 20,000 sales reps across their company. Let's meet their sales reps. We all know Verizon. What you might not know about Verizon sales reps is they're young, motivated, and some of the best ones earn northward of 6 figures. But there's a huge group of those sales reps who are in the middle of the pack. And what Verizon was interested in doing was, how do we change their behavior to make them more like the top sales reps? And this is the challenge. It might be a challenge you in the audience are facing with your company, with your employees, with your customers. One of the things you'll learn about Verizon, very innovative company, top 15, they love data. They're the poster child for data. They have data coming out of their ears. They have data on every aspect of their business. They shared this data with their sales reps. Obviously, they want to take this data and they want to change the behavior of their sales reps, and that's what they've been hoping to do and trying through training programs, through metrics, through KPIs, everything they can think of doing. What we came to the table was we wanted to help them do that better. So how do we do it? What did Andrea just tell us? We went out into the stores. We talked to the sales reps. We understood their environment. We did research. Guys might have heard of ethnographic research, observation, interviews. Let's understand what motivates them. What motivates them in their environment? This wasn't some artificial interview in our labs. We went to the stores. We watched them. We watched how they worked. We watched what motivated these people in their environment. The interesting thing which we found was some of the best sales reps didn't pay attention to the data. Complex KPIs, metrics. There were whole groups in Verizon which created this material to share with their sales rep. They had daily huddles to talk about it. They had coaching. The challenge was some of the best reps weren't paying attention, but they were still being the best reps. They're called quarterbacks. There's some disconnect between what Verizon was trying to do and what was happening out in the field. And we thought we could help solve that. We went in, and through our process, we understand motivations. We understand what drove those behaviors. We understood a lot more about them. Beyond demographic, beyond psychographic, we really wanted to get a heart of what they did and how they did it, because we wanted to create something which would help change behavior. So what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about is take to the next step from what Andrea was just talking about. How do you take motivational design? How do you do it? Some of you might have been here last year and heard me talk about motivational design. I'm going to touch on a couple of those aspects because understanding how your brain works, how dopamine works, will help us understand how to design systems which can change behavior. So we're looking at one rep. This is one rep which we looked at. We called her the quota queen. Every month, she hits a quota. Is that good enough? Not for Verizon. She was middle of the pack. She wasn't even one of the best reps. Understanding why she only hit her metrics was what was revealing to us. She didn't know how to improve. She was good at hitting a quota. She'd got really good at it. She was a mother, single mother, children at home. She'd taken a job, a commission-based sales job, and turned it into a regular paycheck. But she didn't know how to take it to the next level. When we talked to managers, one of the things which we heard was, I don't just want my sales reps to hit their metrics, I want them to exceed it, because that's what makes a great sales rep in Verizon's eyes. So in last year's talk, I talked about motivations and a motivational compass and a motivational GPS. We heard from Andrea some of the things around motivations and the things which drive our behavior. Games touches on one aspect of it, but games do not have the monopoly on human motivation. The key message from last year was, if you look at all the things you guys do, which you don't have to do, you'll realize that motivation goes far more than games. I love games. I play a lot of games, but my motivation takes me in so many different directions. And understanding that what drives things like knitting circles, collecting whiskey, exploring the world, astronomy, all of these things, they have subtly different motivational profiles. There isn't hundreds of motivationals actually at the core, but how they mix, intermix, and through our lives and our life's experience, the things which motivate us are very different. And understanding how this works. Andrea just talked about pleasure and this idea of motivation. In academia, sometimes some academics call it liking and wanting. Wanting is dopamine. Dopamine in a particular circuit, which is around this idea, what she said was motivation. Liking is the pleasure. Mixing those two things up is what has led some designers astray. Understanding it allows us to design engaging systems. So this was a great experiment, which was very revealing. They monitored the dopamine in a particular circuit in the brain for monkeys as they were going through this exercise. A light would flash. 2 seconds later, they would get sugar syrup. The first time it happens, the dopamine spikes in the wanting circuit when the sugar syrup is delivered, at the same time as another circuit where liking actually fired. But after multiple trials, and this is where the secret happens, right? After multiple trials, the dopamine spiked at the light, preceding the reward of the sugar syrup by 2 seconds. Even to the point when they did the experiment and the dopamine still spiked to the green light, but the reward wasn't delivered 2 seconds later, there was a drop in dopamine. A drop in dopamine is actually an unpleasant feeling. We anticipate pleasure. These dopamine, these cues are the secret of motivational design. So understanding how to do this is going to allow us to design better. If they put a bell which chimed before the light, before the sugar syrup, the dopamine spikes at the bell, the first cue in the map to pleasure, in this particular example. So understanding that cues, visceral cues, allow us to start anticipating experiences which we want to move towards. As Andrea said, there's also the negative aspect. We also pay attention to cues which anticipate things we want to move away from or don't want to experience again. Certain smells allow us to anticipate things, great food which we like. Other smells make us remember that time we were sick. Two different cues, two very different behaviors, but at the heart of it, it's motivation, it's dopamine firing in particular circuits. Let me introduce you to the ugliest slide in my deck. We have some amazing designers, but this slide was actually designed by myself. Well, let me be fair. They've actually touched this up. It was actually much uglier in my notebooks. But what is this? This allows me to start thinking and mapping out the cues, the motivational maps, which allow me to translate the research which we did on human behavior to help a designer to understand. So this is one small aspect of the application. I do hundreds of these maps as I think about designing engaging systems. With Verizon, this particular map allowed us to start thinking about how do you take those complex KPIs and metrics, which are supposed to drive behavior in those sales reps, and translate it into moment-by-moment actions. We met a rep who kept spreadsheets. He kept these complex spreadsheets, and he could calculate what he had to sell next to make sure he met and exceeded his quota, and he hit those KPIs. Most reps don't keep spreadsheets. So we wanted to create something which allowed every rep to be able to create those maps, which allowed them to translate. I have to sell two more iPads to be able to hit my quota for internet devices. I need to hit 2 more 4G phones to hit my quota. And translating that into design, taking these maps of motivation and translating those cues into visceral designs is what we do in motivational design. So they took my ugly maps and created some really nice visualizations, which this is just one part of the application, but it gives them progress charts of how am I doing now? What just happened? What do I need to sell more of? Oh, I have to sell more of this. If I sell more of this, I'll hit my target. If I sell 2 more of these, I'm going to exceed my target. And the interesting thing as well, which we decided to do, we decided to put training tips right there in their progress charts. So if they're having problems selling 4G devices, they should get a training tip around that. It's personalized, it's targeted, and it's in the moment they can do something about it. We call this Kairos, and it's something which is very prevalent in one of our our motivational design patterns. This is just one aspect of what we did. The next aspect is how do you take these designs and translate it to actual behavior change? And this is where people meet technology, meet design in one loop. Let me tell you a story about BlackBerry. Maybe I'm aging myself here, but how many of you actually remember BlackBerries? So 2 seconds could have made the difference for BlackBerry being not even heard about, and what they turned into for a number of years, they were called crackberries. If left to the technologists and the programmers, one of the things which actually made the BlackBerry into this addictive device was the fact that it buzzed, and the engineers and the programmers basically buzzed the phone when a message was received. Seems logical, right? Message received, I'm going to buzz. The person picks it up, looks at it, but then the message has to actually download. Only takes a couple of seconds, but they realized that it wasn't engaging. People weren't looking at it. They changed one thing. They made it buzz after the whole message had downloaded. Couple of seconds, right? Couple of seconds in design turns something from being partially engaging, partially useful, to an engaging habit loop. If you want to change behavior, you need to think about every aspect of how technology meets people. In game design, it's called game feel. Really understanding how when you touch a screen, touch an element, move a screen, you get feedback. Like when I press this button and there's a couple of seconds delay, there's a little bit of like, what's going to happen? But that technology meets people. Understanding what you're building is what makes motivational design work. It doesn't stop at motivational design and the research. It doesn't stop at the amazing design. It goes all the way through the technology you build. We talk to customers every day which believe, oh, it's a mobile device you're building for. That shouldn't cost that much, right? 99 cents on iTunes. This isn't 99 cents experiences. This is an enterprise application. Like everything I've been building for 20 years, these are hardcore applications, enterprise applications, which we build on phones. Okay, the screen's small, it's rich, visceral, engaging, but that doesn't change the fact that this application had to integrate with multiple back-end systems in Verizon's infrastructure to pull all of that data to make those changes, to create those screens which change behavior. It also had to work in their security environment. This is secure data. They were putting it on the handsets of their sales reps in stores. They were really concerned about security. So anytime you're building these systems for enterprises, you better believe these are enterprise applications. Don't be fooled that Angry Birds can be bought for free. That's still real programming, real software, real experiences are very complex to build. So when we launched this, we delivered this. We did a pilot rollout, 10 stores. You know, we wanted to get this in the hands of the reps. Because when you're building motivational design, you're building motivational systems, your testing doesn't stop in the QA labs. You have to test this in their environment, in the stores, in the hands of the actual reps who are going to be using this. Because that's when you know that something works. Like game designers, when that meets an actual user, you learn so much more. And you have to test this and be able to actually build upon it and learn from it. That iterative cycle is so important in designing these applications. So what do they think about it? They loved it. The reps liked it. We had one rep who basically, she was a quarterback in a store. First thing she did, she changed the goal. She walked onto the store floor, sold a couple of things. We saw her. We were mirroring the device. She changed the goal again. She upped the goal. She kept playing, looking at it during the day, in those 2-minute downtimes, to understand what will actually engage her. We talked to her 30 minutes before the end of the day. Normally things are wrapping up. She said, sorry, I don't have time to talk to you because I need to hit and exceed my target, which I'd set for myself. I'll talk to you afterwards, guys. This wasn't something Verizon was telling her to do. This was something she wanted to do. It was motivating her to actually change her behavior. So, motivating people to change their behavior is hard. This isn't game over for Verizon. This is just the beginning. If you want to learn how to change behavior, if you want to learn how to motivate people to do the things that you want because you want to drive business results, you better believe that you need to start by understanding motivation. Thank you.
Thanks, Kes. Fantastic.